The council chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 47 different alien species. Captain Deho stood near the back wall trying to make himself invisible. It never worked. Being human meant everyone noticed you, and not in a good way. Ambassador Jiwan walked to the center platform. Her diplomatic uniform was crisp and perfect, but Deho could see the tension in her shoulders. She had done this before, and it never ended well. "Honored members of the Galactic Coalition," Jiwan began, her voice steady despite the whispers already starting. "Earth respectfully requests membership in the Coalition Security Force. We have served faithfully as support members for 200 years. We believe it is time." Laughter erupted from the Vrelok section. Commander Kothrek stood up, his 8-foot frame towering over the platform. His exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber lights, thick enough to stop plasma fire. He raised one massive arm and the laughter stopped instantly. "Time." Kothrek's voice boomed across the chamber. "You think 200 years of filing reports makes you warriors? Let me educate the chamber about humanity's qualifications." He tapped his wrist device and a holographic display appeared above the center platform. Images of humans filled the air. Physical durability. A Vrelok's child could break a human adult with one hand. Temperature tolerance. Humans die in heat that we find comfortable and freeze in cold that we barely notice. Lifespan. They live barely a century, dying of old age before they gain real wisdom. Reflexes. 3 times slower than the average Quilmari. Mental defenses. Their minds are open books, no protection against telepathy whatsoever. Each point brought more laughter. Deho felt his jaw tighten. Beside him, Lieutenant Minho's fists were clenched white. The Quilmari delegate, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Seln, drifted forward. Without permission, it reached into Ambassador Jiwan's mind and broadcast her surface thoughts to the entire chamber. Everyone heard her anger, her shame, her desperate hope that this time would be different. "See?" Seln's telepathic voice echoed in everyone's head. "Even their ambassador knows they are inferior. She hopes we will pity them enough to say yes." How pathetic, more laughter. A Torvan representative made of living crystal chimed in with a voice like breaking glass. "Humans cannot survive vacuum. They cannot process radiation. They need specific atmospheric pressure or they explode or implode. They are perhaps the most environmentally limited species in the Coalition." Ambassador Jiwan stood perfectly still through it all. She had learned long ago that showing emotion only made it worse. When the laughter finally died down, she spoke again. "We may not be the strongest or the fastest, but we are dedicated. We are willing to learn. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves." Kothrek shook his massive head. "The security force protects the galaxy from threats beyond our borders. It requires strength, speed, and durability. Humans possess none of these. You are useful for your record-keeping and your janitorial services. Be content with that." The vote was called. 46 species voted no. Only the Nelvari, a peaceful species that rarely spoke, abstained. Not a single yes vote. Ambassador Jiwan bowed formally and left the platform. As she passed Deho, he saw tears in her eyes that she refused to let fall. She had been doing this for 30 years. Every year the same request. Every year the same humiliation. Back aboard the diplomatic vessel Eternal Dawn, the mood was dark. The ship was old by Coalition standards, its hull patched in a dozen places. Other species had vessels that could cross the galaxy in days. The Eternal Dawn needed weeks for the same journey. But it was humanity's flagship, the best they had. Dr. Hana sat in the science lab staring at her screens without really seeing them. She was the ship's chief xenobiologist, an expert on alien life forms. The irony was not lost on her. She had spent her entire career studying beings who thought she was barely sentient. Still awake? Lieutenant Minho entered the lab, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Real coffee, grown on Earth, impossibly expensive this far from home. "Can't sleep," Hana admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I hear them laughing." Minho set 1 cup in front of her. 30 years. "My father was on the first petition." They laughed at him too. "My grandfather helped write the second petition." Same result. "When does it end?" "Maybe never," Hana said quietly. "Maybe we really are just the weakest species in the galaxy. Maybe that's all we'll ever be." She turned back to her screen, running through routine scans of nearby space. The Coalition maintained thousands of monitoring stations throughout known space, collecting data on everything from cosmic radiation to gravitational anomalies. Most of it was boring, routine work, the kind of work they trusted humans to do. Then something caught her attention. A signal, faint but definitely artificial, coming from an uncharted region. She adjusted the filters, trying to get a clearer reading. "That's strange," she muttered. "What is?" Minho leaned over her shoulder. "There's a transmission coming from the Forbidden Zone." Minho straightened up immediately. Every species in the Coalition knew about the Forbidden Zone, a region of space declared off-limits 3,000 years ago by ancient decree. No one remembered why anymore. No one remembered who had made the decree. It was just one of those things everyone accepted. "You didn't go to the Forbidden Zone. Could be a malfunction in the monitoring equipment," Minho suggested. Hana shook her head. "I'm reading it from 3 different stations. It's definitely there." She ran the signal through her analysis programs. "It's repeating. Every 12 minutes the same pattern. Like a beacon. A beacon for what? I don't know. But it's using old encryption. Really old. Predating the Coalition by thousands of years." Hana's fingers flew across her console. "I need to show this to Captain Deho." They found the captain in his quarters, staring out the window at the stars. He listened to their report without interrupting, his weathered face unreadable. "The Forbidden Zone," he said finally. "They'll never give us permission to investigate." "So we don't ask permission," Minho said. His voice was hard, angry. "What's the worst they can do? Laugh at us more? Mock us in another council session? We're already the galaxy's joke." Deho was quiet for a long moment. Outside the window, Nexus Prime Station gleamed with lights from 1,000 ships representing species from across known space. None of those species respected humanity. None of them ever would. "If we go, it's unauthorized," Deho said slowly. "We could be arrested, tried, imprisoned." "Yes, sir," Hana said. "We could start a diplomatic incident. Damage Earth's reputation even further." "Yes, sir," Minho agreed. "And this signal could be nothing. A malfunction. A natural phenomenon we don't understand. We could be risking everything for nothing." Both officers nodded. Captain Deho smiled for the first time that day. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had finally stopped caring about consequences. "Set course for the Forbidden Zone. Tell the crew we're investigating a routine anomaly. No need to mention where we're going until we're already there." He stood up, his decision made. If humanity is going to be punished for being weak, we might as well be punished for being bold too. The Eternal Dawn changed course 3 hours later. No one from the Coalition noticed. Why would they? Humans were harmless. Humans followed rules. Humans stayed in their place. No one suspected that everything was about to change. The journey took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of wondering if they were making a terrible mistake. Captain Deho kept the crew busy with routine maintenance and drills, but everyone knew something unusual was happening. The star charts showed they were heading away from Coalition space, toward the empty regions where no one went. Engineer Sora was the first to figure it out. She came to the bridge on day 15, her coverall stained with engine grease, carrying a navigation tablet. "Captain, I need to ask you something," she said quietly. "Are we going where I think—" "We're going?" Deho glanced at her, then at the main view screen showing the stars ahead. "The Forbidden Zone." Sora nodded slowly. She didn't look afraid, just curious. "May I ask why?" "Because Dr. Hana found something. A signal. And because I'm tired of being laughed at while following every rule they give us." A small smile crossed Sora's face. "Good. I was hoping you'd say something like that." By day 18, the rest of the crew knew. Medical Officer Junho called a meeting in the mess hall. All 23 crew members of the Eternal Dawn gathered there, cramped into a space meant for 15. "We all know where we're going," Junho said. He was older than most of them, his hair more gray than black. "The captain hasn't made it official, but we're not stupid. I want to know how everyone feels about this." Silence for a moment. Then Communications Officer Yuna spoke up. She was young, barely 25, brilliant with languages and codes. "I've spent 3 years translating dead alien languages," she said. "Languages from civilizations that existed before the Coalition. Every single one of them has legends about humans. Did you know that? Ancient stories about a species that looked like us, acted like us. The Coalition thinks those stories are myths. Maybe they're wrong." "I'm not afraid," said Minho. "We've been afraid for 200 years. Where has it gotten us? One by one, the crew voiced their support. Not a single person wanted to turn back. Captain Deho stood and faced them all. If we're caught, you can claim I gave you no choice. I'll take full responsibility. No, sir, Sora said firmly. We're a crew. We do this together or not at all. The Forbidden Zone boundary appeared on their sensors on day 20. There was no physical barrier, no warning buoys, just an invisible line that every coalition map marked in red. Cross here and face severe consequences. The Eternal Dawn crossed the line. Immediately their instruments went crazy. Dark matter readings spiked to impossible levels. Energy patterns that shouldn't exist flooded their sensors. The ship's shields, designed to handle normal space radiation, started failing. This is why it's forbidden, Hana said, working frantically at her console. The dark matter interference is tearing our systems apart. Any coalition ship would be dead in the water by now. But we're not dead, Sora pointed out. She was in the engine room, her voice coming through the comm system. Our backup systems are holding. The analog controls are working fine. It was true. While the Eternal Dawn's advanced systems failed one by one, the old-fashioned mechanical backups kept functioning. Other species had removed such primitive technology from their ships generations ago. Humans kept it because their ships were old and they couldn't afford better. Now that primitive technology was saving their lives. The signal is getting stronger, Hana reported. 20 million kilometers ahead. There's something massive there, orbiting a dying star. The view screen cleared enough to show it. A structure so huge it made planets look small. A station the size of Earth's moon, dark and silent, floating in the void. What is that? Junho whispered. Yuna was already running scans, comparing the structure's design to every database she had. Her face went pale. The architectural style. It matches the ruins we found on Kepler 442b, and the artifacts from Proxima Centauri, and a dozen other sites. She looked up at Captain Deho. Captain, this station predates the Coalition by thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands. As they approached, more details became visible. The station was damaged in places, showing signs of ancient battle. But it was still functional. Lights flickered deep within its structure. And strangest of all, it was transmitting a docking permission signal. It's inviting us in, Minho said, disbelief in his voice. Check the environmental readings, Deho ordered. Hana's hand shook as she read the data. Atmosphere is oxygen-nitrogen mix. Temperature is 22 degrees Celsius. Gravity is 1 g. Captain, these are Earth standard conditions. Exactly Earth standard. That's impossible, Junho said. What are the odds of an ancient alien station having the exact atmosphere humans need? No one had an answer. The Eternal Dawn docked with the station carefully, Sora guiding them in with manual controls since the automatic systems were still malfunctioning. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk that echoed through the hull. Atmosphere is stable in the docking bay, Hana confirmed. We can breathe without suits. The crew gathered at the airlock. Captain Deho took the lead with Minho and Junho flanking him. The door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The bay beyond was enormous, designed to hold ships 100 times larger than the Eternal Dawn. Emergency lights provided dim illumination, casting long shadows across the floor. Everything was covered in dust, undisturbed for thousands of years. Yuna knelt and touched the floor. Her fingers came away clean despite the dust. This isn't regular dust. It's organized, like it's been placed here deliberately, as preservation. They moved deeper into the station. The corridors were wide and tall, but not impossibly so. They were built for beings about human-sized. Every door they passed had control panels at human height. Every chair in the abandoned rooms fit human proportions. This is wrong, Hana said. Her voice echoed in the empty halls. This station is thousands of years old. Humans weren't in space thousands of years ago. We were still on Earth, barely past the Stone Age. They found the central chamber by following the signal. It led them to a vast room filled with ancient computers and databanks, all still powered by some energy source that had lasted millennia. In the center stood a pedestal with a holographic interface. Yuna approached it carefully. The interface activated at her touch, responding to her body heat. Symbols appeared in the air, rotating slowly. "I can read this," she said, shock in her voice. "It's a language I translated last year from ruins in the Andromeda sector. A dead language that no one has spoken for 50,000 years. Her fingers moved across the holographic controls. "It's a database, a massive one. It contains—" "Oh no. Oh no." "What is it?" Deho asked. Yuna's face was white. "History. The complete history of the galaxy. And Captain, humans are in it. We're everywhere in it. This station. We built it. Humans built it 50,000 years ago." The room was silent except for the hum of ancient machines. "That's impossible," Minho said weakly. "Look." Yuna pulled up images. Holographic records of ancient Earth, but not the Earth they knew. This Earth had cities that touched the sky, ships that crossed the galaxy in hours, humans who lived for centuries. Humans who were strong, fast, powerful. More images followed. Humans exploring the galaxy, meeting other species, uplifting primitive civilizations, building the first galactic union. Humans were everywhere, doing everything, leading everyone. "We were the first," Hana breathed. "Humans were the first species to achieve interstellar civilization. We founded the galactic community. We were the teachers, the protectors, the leaders." "Then what happened?" Junho asked. "Why don't we remember? Why are we weak now?" Yuna searched through the database, her hands moving faster as she learned the system. Finally, she found a file marked in red. Warning symbols covered it. She opened it anyway. A holographic figure appeared. A human woman wearing armor that gleamed like starlight. Her face was tired but determined. "If you're seeing this, then humanity has returned to the stars," the woman said. Her voice was human, speaking an ancient form of Korean that Yuna barely understood. "My name is Commander Ara. I am recording this in the final days of the Scourge War. If you're human, you need to know what we did. If you're not human, you need to know what's coming." The hologram changed, showing scenes of war. Not war against other species, but war against something else. Something that looked like living darkness, entropy given form. Where it touched, matter simply stopped existing. Planets dissolved. Stars went dark. Reality itself unwound. "The Scourge came from beyond our dimension," Commander Ara continued. "We fought them for 100 years. Every species in the galaxy tried to help, but they couldn't. Only humans could resist the entropy effect long enough to fight back. We don't know why. Something in our genetic structure, our quantum signature, made us resistant. The scenes showed humans fighting impossible battles, dying by the billions, but never retreating. We won," Ara said. "Barely. We sealed the dimensional breach, but the cost was everything. Our civilization is gone. Our knowledge is fading. The Scourge's entropy effect damaged our very genetics. We're degrading, becoming weaker with each generation. In a few centuries, our descendants won't even remember we were great. They'll be primitive again, starting over from nothing." Tears ran down her holographic face. "We had a choice. We could try to maintain our civilization and watch it slowly crumble, or we could accept regression and hope our descendants would someday rise again. We chose hope. This station contains everything we knew. When humanity returns to space, when they find this place, everything will be returned to them. The knowledge, the strength, the truth." The hologram looked directly at them as if she could see across 50,000 years. "The Scourge was sealed, not destroyed. The breach will weaken again. In 50,000 years, maybe 100,000, it will return. Humanity must be ready. You must be ready. Choose wisely. Choose bravely." "We believe in you." The hologram faded. The crew of the Eternal Dawn stood in silence, trying to process what they'd just learned. Everything they knew about humanity was wrong. Everything the galaxy believed was false. Captain Deho looked at his crew. "We need to make a choice. Do we activate this? Do we take back what was lost?" Before anyone could answer, alarms blared. Hana ran to a console. "Coalition ships," she said. 20 of them. They followed us. They're surrounding the station. Commander Kothrek's voice boomed through the comm system. Human vessel Eternal Dawn, you are under arrest for violating the Forbidden Zone. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Deho looked at the pedestal, at the controls that could restore everything humanity had lost. Then he looked at his crew, at the people who had trusted him enough to come to this forbidden place. He reached out and pressed the activation button. Let's see them laugh at us now, he said quietly. The moment Captain Deho pressed the activation button, everything changed. The ancient station came alive with light. Energy surged through systems that had waited 50,000 years for this moment. The pedestal glowed bright blue and beams of light shot out to touch each member of the crew. The pain was instant and overwhelming. Hana screamed. Mio dropped to his knees. Yunyo clutched his head. Every nerve in their bodies felt like it was on fire. Information poured into their minds, not as words or images, but as pure understanding. 50,000 years of knowledge compressed into minutes. Deho saw it all. He understood physics in ways that made coalition science look like children's drawings. He grasped mathematics that could predict the movement of galaxies. He knew engineering principles that could build stars. The knowledge of a civilization that had mastered the universe itself flooded into him. But it wasn't just knowledge. It was perspective. He suddenly understood why ancient humanity had been supreme. Every other species in the galaxy had evolved to master one thing. The Vrelux mastered strength. The Quilmari mastered thought. The Torvan mastered endurance. But humanity had mastered something different. Humanity mastered adaptation itself. Where others saw a problem with one solution, humans saw infinite possibilities. Where others saw limits, humans saw puzzles. The universe wasn't a set of rules to follow. It was a game to play, and humans had learned to play it better than anyone. The pain faded. The crew slowly stood up, looking at each other with new eyes. They were still human, still physically weak by galactic standards, but now they understood that physical weakness had never mattered. Captain, Hana said, her voice strange and distant, I can see the quantum foam, the foundation of reality itself. It's beautiful. I understand the Coalition fleet's attack patterns, Minho said, staring at nothing. All of them. Every possible move they could make. I can see it like a map. Yuna laughed suddenly, a sound of pure wonder. The ancient languages I spent years learning? I was translating them wrong. They're all connected. They're all branches of one original human language that we spread across the galaxy. Commander Kothrek's voice came through the comm again, angrier now. You have 30 seconds to surrender, humans. We will open fire. Sora was already in the engine room, her hands moving across controls she now understood perfectly. Captain, I can modify our engines. The Eternal Dawn's design is actually brilliant. We thought it was outdated, but it's adaptable in ways Coalition ships aren't. Give me 2 minutes. You have 1 minute, Deho said calmly. Something had changed in him. The fear was gone. The shame was gone. He had spent 50 years being told he was inferior, and now he knew the truth. Humanity had never been weak. They had just forgotten how to be strong. Outside the station, the Coalition fleet formed a battle sphere. 20 warships, each one powerful enough to destroy cities. Vrelux dreadnoughts with plasma cannons. Torvan planet crackers with graviton beams. Quilmari mine ships that could disable crews with telepathic attacks. The Eternal Dawn undocked from the station and turned to face them. A tiny ship, old and patched, facing an armada. This is your final warning, Kothrek announced. Surrender or die. Captain Deho opened a channel. Commander Kothrek, I respectfully decline both options. Then you are fools, the Vrelos commander replied. Fire. 20 ships opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of plasma bolts, energy beams, and antimatter missiles converged on the Eternal Dawn's position. Enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The Eternal Dawn wasn't there. Sora had done something impossible. She had modified the engines to shift the ship slightly out of phase with normal space. Not faster than light travel, but beside light travel. The ship existed in normal space and a quantum layer simultaneously. Every weapon passed through empty space where the Eternal Dawn had been a fraction of a second before. That's impossible, one of the Quilmari captains broadcast. Our sensors show you're there, but you're not there. You're measuring the wrong thing, Hana replied calmly. She was at the science station, and now she understood sensors better than the beings who had built them. You're looking for matter, but we're probability now. We're where you're not shooting. Minho was at tactical, his mind processing battle data faster than any computer. He could see the fleet's formation, understand their doctrine, predict their movements. Not because he was psychic, but because he understood the math of warfare at a fundamental level. "Captain, they'll try a graviton net next," he said. "They'll attempt to lock down our position by warping space itself. It won't work, but it'll slow us down. I recommend we demonstrate our point before they waste more ammunition." "Agreed," Deho said. "But we don't fire on them. We're not here to start a war." "Then what do we do?" Yunyo asked from the medical bay, where he was monitoring everyone's vital signs. The knowledge download had been hard on their bodies, but he now understood human biology well enough to compensate. "We show them what we learned," Deho said simply. "Minho, plot a course through the fleet, between every ship. Don't touch any of them, but get close enough that they understand." "Yes, sir." A smile crossed Minho's face. "This is going to be interesting." The Eternal Dawn moved. To the Coalition fleet, it looked like magic. The small human ship wove between 20 warships like a needle through thread. It passed within meters of hulls, slipped through firing solutions, danced around graviton beams that should have caught it. Kothrek watched from his command deck, his massive hands gripping the railing. "How are they doing this?"
"Target them! All ships concentrate fire."
The fleet tried. They fired thousands more shots, not one connected. The Eternal Dawn seemed to know where every weapon would be before it fired. It moved through probability itself, always choosing the path where danger wasn't. A Quilmari ship attempted a telepathic attack, trying to disable the human crew's minds. The attack bounced off harmlessly. 50,000 years ago, humans had fought beings that attacked causality itself. Mental defenses against simple telepathy had been basic training. "They're not even using shields," a Torvan captain reported, his crystalline voice full of confusion. "They're just not being where we're shooting." Inside the Eternal Dawn, the crew worked with perfect coordination. Sora kept the engines running beyond their normal limits. Hana predicted the fleet's sensor sweeps, Minho calculated optimal paths, and Yuna decoded and countered every communication the fleet sent. Captain Deho sat in his chair, calm and centered. He opened a broadcast to the entire Coalition fleet. "You call us weak because we break when you hit us," he said quietly. "You call us limited because we need air to breathe. You call us primitive because our technology is simpler than yours. But you never asked the right question. You never asked why we survive." He nodded to Yuna. She activated the station's historical database, broadcasting it to every ship in the fleet. The Coalition crews watched in growing shock as the truth unfolded. They saw ancient humanity building the first galactic civilization. They saw humans uplifting primitive species, including the ancestors of the Vrelox, the Quilmari, the Torvan. They saw the Scourge War, watched humans fighting and dying to save a galaxy that couldn't save itself. Commander Kothrek stared at the images. His people's oldest legends spoke of the Tall Walkers, mythical beings who had taught the first Vrelox to forge metal and build ships. He had always thought they were just stories. Now he watched those Tall Walkers on screen, and they looked exactly like humans. The final message from Commander Ara played for all of them. Her warning about the Scourge's return, her explanation of why humanity had chosen to regress, to forget, to become weak again. When it ended, the fleet hung motionless in space. "We survived because we adapt," Deho continued. "Every one of you evolved to master your environment. You became strong or fast or smart or tough. You became perfect for your worlds. But we became perfect for change itself. We're not strong like you, Commander Kothrek. We're something else. We're persistent. We're creative. We're stubborn. And when you backed us into a corner and laughed at us for 200 years, you gave us the one thing we needed most." "What's that?" Kothrek asked quietly. "Motivation," Deho replied. "You wanted to know if we were worthy of the security force?" "Let me answer that. We don't want to join your security force anymore. We don't need your permission to protect the galaxy. Our ancestors did it 50,000 years ago without asking anyone. We'll do it again when the Scourge returns, whether you want us to or not." The Eternal Dawn stopped moving, holding position in the center of the fleet. 20 warships surrounded it, weapons ready, but no one fired. "The station contains everything humanity knew," Deho said. "All our science, all our history, all our technology. We're taking it back to Earth. You can try to stop us or you can let us go. But understand this. If you fire on us now, you're not firing on the weak species you mocked. You're firing on the species that saved your ancestors, Choose carefully. Silence filled space. 20 ships, thousands of crew members all waiting for orders. Commander Kothrek stood on his bridge, his tactical officers waiting for his command. He could destroy the Eternal Dawn. He had the firepower, but he had also seen the historical records. He had seen humans fighting impossible odds with weapons that made his dreadnought look primitive. More importantly, he had seen them win. Stand down, he ordered. Let them pass, Commander, his second-in-command questioned. They violated the Forbidden Zone. They stole ancient technology. That technology was theirs first, Kothrek said. He watched the Eternal Dawn begin moving toward the edge of the system. Send a message to Coalition Command. Tell them everything. Tell them humanity has remembered who they are. And tell them, he paused, choosing his words carefully, tell them we may have made a mistake treating them as inferior. The Eternal Dawn left the Forbidden Zone without further incident. Behind them, the ancient station called the Crucible waited, its secrets now shared, its purpose fulfilled. Inside the ship, Captain Dae-ho looked at his crew. They were tired, overwhelmed, forever changed by what they had learned. But they were also something else. They were proud. Take us home, he said to Sora. We need to tell Earth what happened. We need to tell them who we really are. And then? Hana asked. And then we get ready, Dae-ho replied. The Scourge is coming back. We have maybe 50 years, maybe 100. We need to prepare. We need to teach the galaxy what we learned. Because this time humanity won't fight alone. The Eternal Dawn turned toward Earth, carrying knowledge that would change everything. Behind them, the Coalition fleet dispersed, each ship carrying word of what they had witnessed. The day humanity stopped being feeble had arrived. The galaxy would never be the same. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, every Coalition world knew the truth. Humanity wasn't the weak newcomer species. They were the ancient founders, the original protectors, the ones who had saved the galaxy 50,000 years ago. Reactions varied wildly. On the Vrelok's homeworld, Commander Kothrek stood before the War Council and showed them the historical records. The proud warriors watched in silence as they learned their ancestors had been primitives living in caves until humans taught them to forge metal and reach for the stars. Some felt shame. Others felt anger at being deceived for so long. The Quilmari retreated into their telepathic networks, their collective consciousness struggling with the revelation. For generations, they had mocked human minds as simple and open. Now they learned those minds had been deliberately left undefended, a choice made by beings who could have crushed Quilmari telepathy with a thought. On Earth, chaos erupted. President Kyung-soo called an emergency session of the World Council. Representatives from every nation gathered in Geneva, all demanding answers. How could this be true? How could humanity have forgotten such an incredible past? Dr. Hana appeared before them via holographic link from the Eternal Dawn, still 3 weeks away from Earth. She explained everything. The Scourge War, the genetic regression, the choice made by their ancestors to become weak so their descendants could survive. They saved us by forgetting, Hana said to the assembled leaders. If they had tried to maintain their civilization while damaged by entropy, we would have degraded slowly into nothing. Instead, they chose to reset completely. They went back to the beginning and let evolution repair what the Scourge had broken. And now? President Kyung-soo asked. He was an old man, cautious by nature, worried about what this revelation would mean for Earth's future. Now we have a choice, Captain Dae-ho said, his image appearing beside Hana's. The Crucible's database warns that the Scourge will return. Our ancestors sealed the dimensional breach, but seals weaken over time. We have between 50 and 100 years before it opens again. The council chamber fell silent. 100 years sounded like a long time, but it wasn't. Not for preparing an entire galaxy for war against an enemy that could unmake reality itself. Admiral Sumi spoke up. She commanded Earth's small defense fleet, 20 ships total, all of them outdated by Coalition standards. We need to rearm immediately. Build new ships, train soldiers. We can't face this threat with what we have now. No, said Professor Yunbi, a philosopher from Seoul University. She was younger than most of the council. Her reputation built on ethics and careful thinking. If we militarize too quickly, the Coalition will see us as a threat. They're already afraid of what we might become. We need to be smart about this. Arguments erupted. Some wanted immediate action. Others urged patience. The debate raged for hours until Representative Bora requested to speak. She was a Nelvari, one of the few aliens living permanently on Earth serving as a cultural liaison. Her species had been the only one to abstain from voting against humanity's petition. "The coalition is terrified," Bora said, her gentle voice somehow cutting through the chaos. "I have received over 400 communications from various worlds in the past 2 days. Some want to make alliances with Earth immediately. Others want to attack you before you become too powerful. The galaxy is balanced on a knife's edge right now. Whatever you decide, decide carefully." President Kyung-soo looked around the chamber at all the worried faces. Finally, he spoke. "We put it to a vote. Not just this council, but everyone. Every human on Earth and in the colonies gets to decide. Do we accept the Crucible's knowledge and prepare for war? Or do we reject it and remain as we are?" The vote took 2 weeks to organize. 12 billion humans cast their choice. The debate consumed every media channel, every conversation, every thought. People argued in the streets, in homes, in virtual forums across the net. Those against militarization argued that humanity had lived peacefully for 200 years. Why throw that away? Why become warriors again just because their ancestors had been? The galaxy didn't need more soldiers. It needed teachers, builders, healers. Those in favor pointed to the scourge. The historical records were clear. When it returned, nothing in the current galaxy could stop it. The coalition's weapons were toys compared to what was coming. If humanity didn't prepare, everyone would die. In the end, 87% voted yes. Humanity would accept the burden their ancestors had left them. They would prepare for the scourge's return. They would become protectors once more. But 13% voted no, and their objection was noted. A resistance movement formed, calling themselves the Peaceful Path. They established communities on distant colonies, refusing to participate in any military buildup. President Kyung-soo let them go. "Freedom to choose," he said, "is what makes us human." The coalition's response came 3 days after Earth's vote. An emergency council session was called on Nexus Prime. This time, when Ambassador Ji-won entered the chamber, no one laughed. The delegates stood as she passed, a show of respect that would have been unthinkable a month ago. High Counselor Thexnor, the Quilmari supremacist, spoke first. His telepathic voice carried fury and fear in equal measure. "Humanity has violated the Forbidden Zone. They have claimed ancient weapons technology. They pose a clear and present danger to coalition security. I move that we launch a preemptive strike on Earth before they become unstoppable." The chamber erupted in argument. 23 species supported the motion. 23 opposed it. The coalition had never been so divided. Then a voice spoke that silenced everyone. The Eternal Observer, representative of the precursor remnants, had not spoken in the council for over 2,000 years. They were the oldest surviving species, beings of pure energy who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "I will speak now," the observer said, its voice like wind through ancient trees. "I will tell you something we have kept secret for 50,000 years." Every delegate turned to face the shimmering energy being that floated in its designated space. During the Scourge War, our species was dying. The entropy effect was dissolving our energy matrices. We had days left, perhaps hours. We sent a final desperate message into space, hoping someone would remember we had existed. The observer paused. Humanity answered. Images filled the chamber. Historical records from the precursor remnants' own archives. Human ships arriving at their dying worlds. Human scientists working frantically to understand energy-based life. Human soldiers holding the line against the scourge while evacuations took place. "They saved us," the observer continued, "not because we were allies. We had never even met before. They saved us because we asked for help, and humanity does not ignore calls for help. They lost 3 billion people protecting our species. 3 billion deaths to save strangers." The chamber was absolutely silent. We have remained quiet in coalition affairs for 2,000 years, waiting for humanity to return to the stars, waiting for this moment. We owe them a life debt that can never be repaid. So I will vote, and my vote is this. Humanity will be offered full coalition partnership with equal standing to any species. They will be given access to all resources they need, and they will lead the defense against the scourge when it returns. "You can't be serious," Thexnor sputtered. "Give them command? Give the humans command over coalition forces?" "Yes," the observer said simply, "because 50,000 years ago, They commanded the greatest military force the galaxy has ever seen, and they used it only to defend, never to conquer. Can any other species claim the same? The vote was called. With the observers' decision, it was 24 to 23 in favor of humanity. The narrowest possible margin, but enough. Ambassador Jiwan stood before the council, tears streaming down her face. For 30 years she had begged for respect. Now it was given, not through her diplomacy, but through the sacrifices of ancestors she had never known existed. "The scourge is coming," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "Humanity will prepare to face it. But we will not do so as conquerors or rulers. We will do it as partners. We will share everything we learned from the Crucible with any species who wants it. Our ancient knowledge, our technology, our strategies, all of it freely given." "Why?" asked a Torvan delegate. "You could dominate us now. Why share your advantages?" "Because that's not who we are," G1 replied. "Our ancestors could have ruled the galaxy, but they chose to teach instead. They chose to uplift instead. They chose to serve instead. We will honor that choice." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from species across the galaxy. "We spent 200 years as the weakest among you. We know what it feels like to be looked down upon, to be dismissed, to be considered worthless. We will never make another species feel that way. Never." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates were moved. Others remained suspicious. But the decision was made. Humanity would lead the preparation for the Scourge's return. On Earth, Captain Deho and the crew of the Eternal Dawn finally arrived home. They landed in Seoul to a crowd of millions. People cheered, wept, reached out to touch the ship that had changed everything. President Kyung-soo met them personally. "What you've done," he said to Deho, "has altered the course of human history, possibly galactic history. How do you feel?" Deho looked at his crew. Hana, who had discovered the signal, Minho, who had urged them to be bold, Sora, who had kept them alive, Krunho, Yuna, and all the others who had trusted him enough to break every rule. "Scared," he admitted. "We've started something we might not be able to finish. The Scourge is real, and it's coming. We have 30 years, maybe 50, to prepare an entire galaxy for a war most of them can't even imagine." "Then we better get started," said a new voice. Captain Taman stepped forward. He was young, barely 30, commanding Earth's first Crucible-designed ship, the Defiance. "We have the knowledge. We have the time. We have the will. Our ancestors beat the Scourge once. We'll do it again." Deho looked at the young captain and saw the future, a generation that would grow up knowing humanity's true heritage, a generation that would never bow their heads in shame, a generation that would face the impossible and laugh. "Yes," he said, "we'll do it again. But this time we won't fight alone." Across the galaxy, species that had mocked humanity for centuries now looked to Earth with new eyes. Some saw opportunity, some saw danger, but all of them saw the truth. Humanity had stopped being feeble. The question now was what they would become next. 28 years passed like water through fingers. Earth transformed from a backwater world into the center of galactic civilization. Shipyards filled the space around Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Thousands of vessels took shape, blending human innovation with coalition resources. The ships were smaller than the old dreadnoughts, faster, built for precision rather than brute force. Dr. Hana, now silver-haired and leading the Coalition Science Council, stood in her laboratory on Europa Station. Around her worked researchers from 30 different species, all studying the data recovered from the Crucible. She had spent nearly 3 decades teaching them what humans had learned 50,000 years ago. "The entropy resistance gene is active in all species now," reported Dr. Subin, Hana's granddaughter and lead geneticist. She was brilliant, perhaps more than Hana had ever been. "The inoculations are holding. When the Scourge returns, they won't be able to simply dissolve matter like they did before." "Good," Hana said, though her expression remained worried. "But the Scourge adapts. Our ancestors knew that. They won the last war, but barely. This time will be harder. Far above Earth, Admiral Minho commanded the combined defense fleet from the bridge of the flagship Unbreakable Dawn. He was old now, his hair completely gray, but his mind remained sharp. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of 15,000 ships. 3,000 were human-built. 12,000 came from 40 coalition species working together. "Status report," he ordered. Commander Hyun, his tactical officer, was young enough to be his grandson. All battle groups are in position. Sector 0 monitoring stations report increasing dimensional instability. The breach is weakening faster than projected. How long? 3 weeks. Maybe less. Minho nodded slowly. They had prepared for this moment for 28 years, but it still felt too soon. He opened a channel to Captain Gina, who commanded the Unbreakable Dawn's tactical wing. "Captain, are your people ready?" Gina's face appeared on screen. She had her father's eyes, Daeho's steady determination. "Ready as we'll ever be, sir. The new pilots have trained their entire lives for this. They're better than we were." "They'll need to be," Minho said quietly. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Daeho watched the same displays from Coalition Command in Geneva. He was 78 now, too old for active combat, but his strategic mind remained invaluable. President Kyung-soo had asked him to coordinate the overall defense. Beside him stood Ambassador Ji-won, now Secretary General of the United Coalition. She had spent 28 years building the political structure that held 47 species together in true unity. Not just loose alliance. All civilian populations have been evacuated from the border sectors, Ji-won reported. 15 billion people moved to safety. The logistics alone were impossible, Daeho finished. But we did it anyway. That's what humans do. Engineer Sora, leading the technical division from Mars Base, sent her final report. Every ship had been checked and double-checked. Every weapon system tested. Every shield calibrated. Humanity's primitive engineering had been merged with coalition technology to create something neither could have built alone. Medical Officer Junho, now Chief Medical Advisor, had positioned hospital ships throughout the fleet. He had trained 40,000 doctors from every species in the galaxy. When casualties came, and they would come, they would be ready. Communications Officer Yuna had done something no one thought possible. She had created a universal translation protocol that worked in real time across all species. In battle, there would be no confusion, no misunderstanding. Every order would be understood by every soldier, regardless of what world they came from. The dimensional breach opened on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. Alarms screamed across 15,000 ships. Sensors, enhanced with human strategic intuition and coalition precision, detected the tear in reality before it fully formed. The scourge poured through like water through a broken dam. They were different this time. 50,000 years had changed them. Where the ancient scourge had been mindless entropy, this new version had intelligence. It had learned. It had waited and planned. The first wave hit Sector 0's defensive line. 300 ships opened fire with weapons designed specifically to harm beings of pure entropy. The weapons worked, but not well enough. Scourge entities simply split when hit, becoming 2 smaller threats instead of 1. "They adapted to our weapons," Commander Hyun reported, his voice tight with stress, just like Admiral Daeho predicted. "Execute Protocol 7, Minho ordered calmly. 28 years of preparation had included planning for this exact scenario. The fleet shifted formation. Instead of fighting the scourge directly, they created corridors, funneling the entities into specific paths. At the end of each corridor waited specialist teams, human tacticians working with Vrelox warriors, Quilmari telepaths, and Torvon engineers. "We can't kill them," Captain Gina explained to her pilots, "so we don't try. We contain them, channel them, control them, make them move where we want." It was working barely. The scourge pushed forward, but the fleet gave ground and organized retreat, always maintaining the corridors, always controlling the battlefield's shape. Then the scourge did something new. They stopped attacking matter and started attacking concepts. Ships didn't explode. They simply forgot how to function. Weapons forgot they were dangerous. Shields forgot they were protective. "This is what destroyed our ancestors," Dr. Hana broadcasted to all command ships. "The scourge learned to attack information itself. But we planned for this too." Dr. Subin activated the countermeasure she had spent 10 years developing. Every ship in the fleet carried a quantum anchor, a device that locked their fundamental purpose into reality itself. A ship could forget it was a ship, but the universe would remember and remind it. The battle raged for 6 days. The scourge kept coming, an endless tide of entropy. The fleet kept adapting, kept changing tactics, kept fighting. Ships were lost. Good people died. The Vrelox warrior Kothrek, now an old soldier serving beside the humans he once mocked, died protecting a human medical frigate. His last words were a simple thank you. By day 7, a terrible truth became clear. The Scourge wasn't trying to win. It was testing them, learning their tactics, understanding their defenses. The real attack hadn't begun yet. Fleet Admiral Deho saw it first. He called an emergency meeting of all senior commanders, human and alien alike. "We can't win by fighting," he said bluntly. "Every tactic we use, they adapt to. Every weapon we deploy, they counter. Our ancestors didn't defeat the Scourge through superior firepower. They defeated it by changing the rules of the game." "What do you suggest?" asked the Quilmari fleet master, a being that had once considered humans barely sentient. "We go to the source," Deho replied. "The dimensional breach. Instead of fighting the Scourge, we close the door they're coming through." "That's impossible," a Torvan admiral protested. "The breach is inside a zone of pure entropy. Any ship that gets close enough will be dissolved." "Not if we become part of the entropy ourselves," Dr. Subin said quietly. She had been waiting for this moment, dreading it but knowing it was inevitable. "I've developed a procedure. We can imprint a quantum signature onto the breach itself. Use a stable consciousness pattern to collapse it permanently from both sides." "What does that require?" Jiwan asked, though she already knew the answer. "Volunteers," Subin replied. "A crew willing to fly into the breach and allow their consciousness to be woven into space-time itself. They won't die exactly. They'll become part of the universe's structure, forever aware, forever watching, but never individual again." Silence filled the channel. Captain Gina spoke first. "How many people?" "A full ship's crew. 3,000 minimum. The more diverse the consciousness patterns, the more stable the seal." "I volunteer," Gina said immediately. "The Unbreakable Dawn and my entire crew." "Captain, no," Minho protested. "Admiral, yes," Gina replied firmly. "You trained me to make hard decisions. This is the hardest one, and it's also the right one. My crew knows what we're fighting for. We all volunteered for this mission 28 years ago when we joined the fleet." Deho watched his daughter on the screen, proud and heartbroken in equal measure. She had grown into a leader worthy of humanity's legacy. "The Coalition Council must approve this," Secretary General Jiwan said. "We don't sacrifice people without consent." The vote took 6 hours. During that time, 500 additional volunteers came forward from every species in the fleet. Frelox warriors, Quilmari philosophers, Torvan scientists, young and old, all willing to become eternal guardians. The council voted unanimously in favor. Every species agreed. For the first time in galactic history, 47 different civilizations spoke with one voice. Captain Gina selected her final crew, 3,200 beings from 23 species. They boarded the Unbreakable Dawn, said their goodbyes, and made peace with their choice. Commander Hyun piloted them toward the breach. Diplomat Wu Jin, who had learned to speak in mathematics and emotion simultaneously, sent a final message to the galaxy. "We weren't the strongest," he broadcast. "We weren't the smartest. We weren't superior. But we learned to care. We learned to sacrifice. We learned that the greatest strength is knowing what's worth dying for. Remember us. Remember that we stood together." Dr. Subin activated the quantum imprint device. The Unbreakable Dawn entered the breach and 3,200 souls began to dissolve. Not into nothing, but into everything. Their consciousness spread across space-time itself. Captain Gina felt herself becoming infinite and singular at once. She was still herself, but also part of every star, every planet, every atom in the universe. She could feel her crew with her, feel the Vrelox warriors' strength, the Quilmari wisdom, the Torvan endurance, all woven together with human determination. Together, they became the seal. The breach collapsed. The Scourge, attempting to retreat, found no escape. The door was closed from both sides, forever. In the fleet, every sensor confirmed it. The dimensional tear was gone. The Scourge was trapped in its own realm, unable to reach this universe again. The cheering lasted for hours. 15,000 ships, billions of beings across the galaxy, all celebrating survival. But on the bridge of what remained of the command fleet, Admiral Minho wept for the daughter of his old friend. Fleet Admiral Deho stood in Geneva, staring at the stars, knowing his daughter was up there somewhere. Woven into the fabric of existence itself, Jiwan stood beside him, taking his hand. "She saved us all," Jiwan said softly. "I know," Deho replied. "I'm proud, and I'm devastated, both at once." 200 years later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Humanity numbered in the hundreds of billions. They lived on 1,000 worlds, worked alongside 46 other species in true partnership. The coalition had become a real union, borders dissolved, resources shared, knowledge freely given. Every year, on the Day of Remembrance, every being in the galaxy stopped what they were doing at the exact moment the unbreakable dawn had entered the breach. They stood in silence, remembering the 3,200 who had sacrificed everything. Where the breach had been, space itself seemed gentler somehow. Ships passing through that region reported feeling safe, protected as if something was watching over them. Scientists confirmed unusual readings. The laws of physics in that sector were slightly more favorable to life, as if reality itself had been reprogrammed to nurture rather than destroy. Dr. Junho, ancient now at 140 years old, gave his final lecture at the Museum of Humanity in Seoul. For 200 years, we were called Feeble, he told the students gathered before him. Young humans and aliens learning together. They measured us by strength and found us weak. They measured us by speed and found us slow. They measured us by all the wrong things. He gestured to the hull fragment from the original Eternal Dawn, still displayed in the place of honor. True strength isn't power. It's not technology. It's not physical dominance. True strength is compassion. It's cooperation. It's the courage to sacrifice for something greater than yourself. Our ancestors understood that 50,000 years ago. We forgot it. We remembered it. And we taught the galaxy what it really means. A young Vrelok student raised his hand. Professor, do you think the scourge will ever return? Hunyo smiled. No, because 3,200 souls stand eternal watch ensuring it never can. They are woven into the universe now, forever vigilant, forever protecting. Captain Gina and her crew made a promise that day. They promised humanity would endure, and they would endure together. He looked around at the faces of a dozen species, all learning together, all growing together. And that promise, he said softly, will never be broken. In the quantum foam of reality, where consciousness and physics merged, Captain Gina kept watch. She felt every ship that passed through her sector. She felt every child born on the world she protected. She felt the universe breathing, living, growing. She was not alone. 3,200 souls stood with her, forever united, forever watchful. They had been human, Vreloks, Quilmari, Torvan, and 20 other species. Now they were something new. They were the guardians. They were the seal. They were the promise that never again would any species face extinction alone. And across the galaxy, in every school and home, in every language spoken by every species, children learned the same lesson, the lesson that changed everything. The lesson humanity had taught through sacrifice and love. Strength is not the absence of weakness. Strength is what you choose to do with it.